Hey guys, I just realized that the computer that I was intending to use to do this live program today isn't going to function well because I don't have the right browser connection and the right browser hookup. And so I'm not going to do the normal Coffee Tea You and Me live program. One, because I don't have access to all of my information and all of my communication. I see my friends are starting to check in now. I see you, Melinda. Good to have you on board today. But I just want to let you guys know that I just left an amazing conference where I was one of the panelists, and that was presented in a very unique way. One of my good friends from Virginia has posted this great conference, Mr. Fraser O'Leary, and it was just a great time with great people. If you get a chance to tune in, there's lots of recordings and everything there. I'm going to put a link to everything from today's program. But what I want to talk about today at Coffee Tea You and Me is kind of unique because it's really one of the last steps that you need to do when it comes to developing your professional relationships in a meaningful, powerful way. Heretofore, I've been talking a lot about how you first have to start to really identify with yourself and identify with people who identify with you personally. And then as you start to do that, you start to deepen those relationships. And that was sort of phase three or phase two. Now we're getting to phase three, where you've already gotten to a place where you've developed some very, very strong professional relationships, some very, very unique teams that you've been able to assemble and produce. And now we're going to get into some of the planning methodologies and some of the planning strategies that you could use with your individual networks, your individual teams, your organizations, in order to move a major agenda forward. Whatever that agenda is, whatever that process or program or whatever success you're trying to use, you can be able to use some of the information that we're going to share today and talk about today to make that happen. So I'm going to be toggling back and forth here between my screen, which is my on my phone right now, and my screen that I have for my laptop. I'm actually away from my studio, my home office, and so I'm doing this now out in the mountains. And if I'm really good, I might even be able to share with you all the view that I can get. Let me see if I can figure that out. Look at that! Yes, I can. This is a view from the mountains of the room that I'm in right now. This is the room that my wife and I are in. My whole family's up here in Massanutten Mountains and just enjoying the mountain air, fresh opportunities. So just wanted to thank you all for allowing me to take this break. But I want to make sure that Coffee Tea with Me happens, even if I'm on a break technically. I'm still doing what I need to do. So it's back to me. All right. So, and now it's back to me, and I'm going to go back to my seat and see if I can't get the lighting right in the room again. Okay. That's better. That was a nice little detour. I really love making sure that I get a chance to spend some quality time with my family and friends. And anybody wants to come up and visit sometime, well, you actually can't visit now because we're doing that COVID-19 stuff, so we're not really accepting guests. But usually I invite my friends to come up and hang out with us on the mountains, but can't do it now. So in any case, today's topic is a very, very specific topic. And I love this topic because this is really advancing the level of leadership that you bring to whatever you're going to do with your friends and with the people that you work with. And so, thank you, Melinda. I appreciate it. It's beautiful coming in better on the phone versus the computer. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Probably getting a much better video quality on the phone than I do on my laptop or my computer. Anyway, in fact, that has to do much more with the quality of camera that I'm using. And I guess I got to figure that out at some point. Too. Scott just popped in. Good to see you, Scott. That's nice to have you there. And there's Diana. Oh, that's amazing. We got a pretty good group here today. Oh, that's a wonderful thing. Okay, so we got Jean, we got Scott, we got Melinda, we got Diana. Oh, we got a party going on now, right? So, what I want to talk to you guys today about is really about planning and how planning works in terms of working with your team members, work with people that you might be networking with, and how to really use the planning methodology that I'm going to suggest coming forward. And just a few thoughts before we get into it. I want you to understand that planning is something that you have to do in order to get anywhere you want to go. It's just not useful for you to waste time, effort, and energy on trying to accomplish something without a plan. A plan allows you to truly assess the situation, look at what your tools and responses might be. Maybe you have some resources that you need to use in order to get to where you need to go. It helps you understand how to use those resources. Maybe you need to practice and rehearse something in order to make those happen. And planning is all a part of doing that reconnaissance, of doing the research, of making the practice happen, and then finally codifying everything you've learned into a strategy that you will employ moving forward. Okay, but that's not the stuff we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the people stuff that makes planning go well and the stuff that makes planning go badly. And I want to get into some details with you. And now, because I'm trying to hold the phone and do this at the same time, you guys might be a little glitchy, but I'm going to try to do the best I can to work that out. So I'm going to pull up while I can sort of an idea of what the planning process should look like and some of the things that can get in the way of your planning process. And then we're going to have a discussion about those situations. All right. So I want to reiterate, this is literally the 8th of the 9 steps to building professional relationships. And again, the first 2 phases and the first 7 steps were all about leading you from I just kind of met you, or we have a fledgling relationship, all the way up to we have more of an advanced relationship, and we have a high level of trust already, and now we're ready to start to really, really work and collaborate together. Until you've been through those first couple of steps with people and really understand what that's all about, I don't think you really want to get into this phase we're talking about right now. You want to work with, when you get to the planning phase, when you really want to, you've already decided you want to work with this person. You've already decided that you want them on your team. You've already selected them and invited them, and they've already accepted the responsibility to be on your team, to work with you on whatever it is that you want to work on. So if you haven't gotten there, you need to ignore these steps that I'm going to teach you right now and go back into other steps. There's plenty of videos. There's videos on every part of that process on my Facebook page. There will be this one. It's not going to be on my YouTube page live right now because I'm only doing it through Facebook. But I will be able to download it and then repost it up onto YouTube a little later on as an example. All right. So let's look at some of the 4 phases of planning. And these are the things that I want to make sure that I share with you because these are the things that will get in your way of really not having a good plan. Now, obviously, you want to have a good plan. You want to have a good plan because if you don't have a good plan, then you're pretty much locking in failure. You're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to fail in whatever endeavor that you have. But planning, it does so much more than just allow you to progress, right? And there are 4 things I want you to think about today, and we want to think about today when it comes to planning. The first thing is belief. Belief, then commitment, then mission, and then process. Belief, commitment, mission, and process. Those are the 4 steps of planning that I want you to think about today. I want to think about and talk to you about today. And the reason why it's important to talk about these things, because these things are the things that will derail your planning process. And I want to share some ideas with you, and I want you to share some ideas with me. First of all, have you ever, just raise your hand or give me a shout out in a text message or whatever that is, if you've ever been involved with an organization that seemed to have no plan or a bad plan to what they're trying to do. Has that ever happened to you? Whether you were the leader or you're a member of the organization, whatever the experience it is, it might be a committee or whatever. Have you ever been in a space where there just seems to be either a bad plan or no plan? Okay? And if that's the case for you, I want you to tell me what it felt like. Go ahead and in the chat box or whatever, write down what it felt like to be a part of that process, or even in that situation. In your own words, tell me what it felt like. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be looking for a piece of material that I'm getting involved in here. And there's I know there's a time delay on your response, so go ahead and write your response in the chat room. If you've been involved with the process, how did it feel? If it was a bad planning process, if it was no plan at all, how did you feel about being a part of the team, about the leaders, about anything? Okay. Okay, Gene, I see what you're saying. Nobody else has responded. I really would like a response, guys. If you have been involved or not been involved with the bad planning process, just let me know something that you're out there. Yes, it felt closed in. I get you, Scott. That's true. And when you are part of a process that's not working, it sucks, right? You feel like you can't go anywhere. You feel locked in. I hear you. Melinda says, I spoke in and was in charge of getting a plan put together, and it felt awful. I was lucky they were open to my helping. I totally understand that. And some of the things we're going to talk about today is how you can avoid those situations in the future of where you think people want to go in a direction, but they don't really want to go in the direction that you're thinking. Which is really, really important. Gene said, I'm typing. It felt disorganized, like I was wasting my time. That is so true, Gene. When things aren't working right, and you're not on a team where there's a lot of respect, there's people that don't necessarily like each other, don't necessarily really want to work together or value each other, know how to value each other, or know how to collaborate well. The planning process it just really sucks. There's no confidence. The goal was going to get accomplished. Yes, that's right. That's exactly what happens. It's like you just feel like, why am I here? What's going on? I'm wasting my time. Everybody's wasting their time. And there's a key to that I think is very, very important to think through. I really appreciate all of your input there. That's great. Let's talk now then about the 4 steps of planning process. First step is you need to have a tremendous belief in one another. Everybody on the team needs to have a tremendous belief in one another before you go into the planning process. Remember, if we think about what we talked about previous sessions, you've already recruited rock stars. You've already recruited people who are high level, people who have great expectations, a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and they've said, yes, they want to be on this team, right? So, and they may know you as the leader, but they may not know each other as members of this new team they just joined. And so it's very, very important that as the leader, you take the time to get everybody oriented to a few things. One, your leadership style. What is your expectation of every single member on the team? 2, what can they depend on each other from each other? So if you had a team of 5 people, right? And I'll just give them numbers 1 through 5, right? If number 2 doesn't know what number 3 is good at and what number 3 is going to contribute to the team, then they may run the risk of duplicating the efforts of number 3. Or when number 3 is trying to do something on the team, they might just make a mistake and not show number 3 the appropriate amount of respect that they have rightfully earned, but that person doesn't know them yet. So they doesn't know that, they are a person of great character, experience, and expertise, and so on and so forth. So it's critically important as a leader that you make sure you tell everyone else on the team why you recruited every other member of the team, so that they can have a reasonable expectation of what these other people bring to the table. This is very, very important, because if you don't have a high level of mutual respect for every member of the team, The team member that doesn't get a lot of respect is going to be the one that slows the process down, creates some drama, and it's not basically of their own doing. It's because the leader didn't do a great job of saying, I recruited number 4 to the team because number 4 offers us this skill, this talent, this ability above and beyond anything I can find anywhere else. And I promise you, you're going to be proud to be associated with number 4 because number 4 is the best of the best for these reasons, right? If you're not doing that with every member of the team, and making sure that every other member of the team has an understanding of why everybody else is on the team, what you're doing then is you're making the same kind of assumptions that were probably made when you got invited to this horrible team, right? Or that you just talked about, right? Or just thought about. And it's very, very important that you don't do that to other people. So when you invite them on the team, make sure they know why they're there, and make sure that everybody else on the team knows why they're there and what they're going to do for the team, what their expectation is to deliver in terms of the team. If you've done this well, and again, back to some of the things we try to do at the roundtable is communicate effectively. If you've done this well, you cancel out a lot of the we need to get to know each other before we can trust each other kind of thing that tends to happen in teams that are formed haphazardly and just kind of thrown together and then put on the field and say, go, and that's what happens a lot in the workplace. It happens a lot to organizations, but it's always the leader responsibility to make sure that every member has a proper orientation to the group as well as every member of the group, and that the group has a proper orientation to every member of the group. That's the leadership responsibility to make sure that communication is effective. So if there's testimonials that need to be shared across the board for everybody, then you need to do that. If there's endorsements, if there's any type of third-party influence, or even as a leader, if you're going to be depending on your influence, if you're going to be able to say, I recruited this person, then the people that you're talking to need to respect you as the leader. If you don't have the respect of the team, then the people that you recruit, they're not going to have the respect of the team. Because think about this, everything that people think our character is all about immediately gets transferred to other people that we're associated with. And so you don't want that. You want to make sure that the team understands that this person that you've brought on the team is a valuable player, is a person who could bring something special, unique, and meaningful to the table. And it's got to be more than just I love their personality or they're fun people to play with, or I played with them before and so therefore I'm going to play with them again. It's not just your history. It's the real talent. It's the real raw ability. It's the skill. And it's the character that makes you trust them. So you're offering them up for somebody else to trust as well. Very, very difficult process, but very, very important process. Until every member of the team respects every other member of the team, you're not going to be able to take off and get going. And so that's why every team that you think of has a boot camp or a preseason camp or some type of tactical strategic alignment process in order for everybody to start to get on the same page and start to really identify with one another and so on and so forth. But you got to have that belief in each other. You have to have that faith that everybody's going to be able to do what they say they're going to be able to do. Everybody's going to be able to perform at a high level. And that expectation, it has to be there. If that stuff isn't there in a real solid form, then it's easy for people to do things like, I knew that person was gonna screw this up. I knew number one was gonna mess this up. I knew you should have never been recruited to the team in the first place. I don't know what Marvin was thinking, that kind of thing. And then you get that issue, and then now you got to deal with 4 different issues instead of just the one issue of performance, right? And so make sure that whoever you recruit to the team, you have that proper belief in the team, in each other, and what you can do together. Because it is a fact. What you can do together is so much more than what you can ever do as an individual. And you have to build that belief. Now, Why am I talking about this in the planning phase? I'm talking about this in the planning phase because if you don't believe in each other during the planning phase, which I highly suggest you do collectively together, then I think that, and we need to flip that model that we've always said the leaders, come from on high with the rules and the restrictions and the possibilities and the plan and all that kind of stuff, and then they dictate to everybody else what the plan is and how it's going to go. I'm not going to suggest you do that because remember, you have just put together a team of powerful people. You're going to want them to be fully engaged. You're going to want them to be fully committed to the plan, to each other, to the mission of the organization. If they're not involved in the planning process, if they're not involved in the finishing of the planning process, then they may not have to be involved with the beginning, right? But during the finishing phases of the planning process, if they're not there, then I got a feeling that, you're not getting their best creative efforts. You're not getting them fully engaged. I'm more engaged as an individual in anything that I had to do with creating than I am with things that are already created and then dictated to me, right? You want a person who's a highly intelligent, highly skilled, highly functional person. You want everything from them that you can get from them. You want to leverage all their skills and abilities, but you can't if you create the plan and then try to bring them into the plan. You have to find the team, create the team, and then use the team to create the magical plan. At least the finishing of the plan. All right, so I know there's going to be some questions around that because I know people are going to ask me, well, how can I put together the plan after I got the team together? I said you put together the initial plan before you get the team together. You finish the plan after you get the team together, and you start to invite them into the planning process. Okay, so number 2. Now that you have a tremendous belief in each other, you're ready for the next step. All right, you have to absolutely prepare for committed action. Now, as a team, everybody's got to be willing to commit to the action required for you to push together, pull together, and create the magic that you're trying to create and actually execute on the strategy that you've finished out. Now, next week we're going to talk about execution. But I want you to understand, if people aren't already fully committed to taking the action that they're going to need to take during the execution phase, they fail during the planning phase to root that out. Making sure that people have the time in their calendar to commit to the organization, to commit to the value proposition, to commit to what everybody else is committing to is a critical step to fielding, putting the right kind of team on the field, putting the right people in place, making sure that everybody knows what everybody's up to and how everybody's going to work together, and even establishing collaborative teams within the team. It's very, very important that you have time set aside, that you have space and resources set aside, and that everybody knows what commitment they're willing to make. Because I promise you, with any new thing that you're trying to do, you're going to have to take an old thing and do less of it or put it on the back burner altogether, because none of us has unlimited capacity to grow and to do new things. And so everything you decide you want to commit to means there's something else that you were committed to that you can no longer be committed to. So you got to think about that. What are you going to let go of? And it's very, very important. A lot of times when teams decide we're going to do this, we're going to go for this big effort, we're going to do this big program, we're going to create this wonderful process, they have to know not just where they're going in terms of what they're trying to get to, what they're trying to accomplish, they have to know what they're going to let go of. And I find it always a cathartic moment when teams can say, okay, yes, I'm going to take my expertise and I'm going to give it to you for this period of time. And in doing so, I'm going to let go of this process, this program, this so on and so forth, so that I have time to dedicate to this. Because that's how you lock in the commitment and the accountability to do what you say you're going to do. And you're going to want your teams to hold each other accountable. You're going to want the members of the team to be able and willing to hold each other accountable to what everybody said they were going to do. So sometimes, just that conversation about what you're going to let go of in order to have the room and the resources to do this thing that you want to do together is a great conversation to have. It's a great conversation to have as a leader. It's a great conversation to have as a team and as every individual member of the team, because it allows everybody else to feel comfortable that you are actually going to commit to the action required in order for us to function well together as a team. And to do that, you have to agree, these are our meeting times. And we're not going to miss these meetings unless it's an act of God, right? Something that could not have been predicted or thought through or whatever, or replanned. It's going to take a list. It's going to take a priority for you. And so if you're not going to prioritize and put the work of that team at the highest level of your priority list or your task list for your daily, weekly, monthly activity, whatever that is, then you're not going to be an active member of the team. You're already planning not to be by not planning to be. When you're not saying, I'm going to put XYZ number of time on my calendar every day, every week, every month for this effort, then you're simultaneously saying, I'm not going to be an active member of the team. I'm not going to be engaged. I'm not going to be giving it my best. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be there for my teammates. And so whatever practice, rehearsal, or whatever you have to do before the big event, or before the big effort, or whatever happens, then you have to be committed to doing that. If you're not committed to the action, if you're not committed to the process, then don't begin. It's better that you say right then and there, you know what, I bit off a little bit more than I chewed. I don't know. I don't really like these people. I don't really like this effort. I thought I could, but maybe I couldn't. And maybe I got recruited into something that I didn't really want to be recruited into. And so now it's time for me to opt out before people start to develop dependencies, and before people start to really start to engage and require my time, my effort, my resources in order to pull this off. That committed action process is a critically important process for every team member to go through, and then be vocal about, for every other team member to understand the heart and the soul of the commitment that they're willing to share in order to move the effort forward. As a leader, your facilitation of that conversation and your understanding and your willingness to share that with each and every member of the team, again, is critical to the team effort. So if you don't get there, if you don't put yourself there, if you don't try to go there, then I got a feeling that whatever team you put on the field, whatever team you try to move forward with, it's just not going to work. Whether it's a small association or a coordinating committee or whatever it is you're trying to do, it's not going to work well if you don't really focus on making sure that everybody on the team is willing to commit to make the committed action, and you know what that action is. In fact, not only do you know what the action is, you know what they're not going to be doing any more of, so that you can hold each other accountable for doing the thing that you've already agreed, and all of you have already agreed to get there. I see you, Mr. Rand. Good to see you. Thank you very much for jumping in on us. That's great. We're now going through the steps to proper planning. And so you've missed the first two steps, but you can go back and watch those. We're moving into the third step right now of really trying to understand how to really work well in small teams with everybody. And the third step is develop a mutually shared mission. Right? First step was have a tremendous belief in each other. Second step was be absolutely prepared for committed action. The third step is to develop a mutually shared mission. Now, you may have thought that when you started, you already knew what the mission was as a leader. All right? But again, if you're thinking in terms of collaborative leadership, your job is not to dictate the mission. Your job is to pull the mission out of your team and then codify it in a way that they can all agree. Well, let me tell you, the best way to get here is not through brainstorming. A lot of times we've done that in the past. A lot of organizations say, well, we're gonna have a big brainstorming session so we can figure out who we are, where we're going, and what we're all about, and all that kind of stuff, and what we're gonna do with this, and how we're gonna make these statements and these presentations, and all. We're gonna brainstorm this thing so we can come up with the best of creativity. Well, it turns out that the worst thing you can do to create more energy and more ideas and more passion behind your team and your team's efforts is to do a brainstorming session. Let me tell you why. When you do brainstorming sessions, typically There's somebody with a big mouth who likes to talk a lot, or somebody who it just sucks all the air out of the room, who has thinks they have all the ideas, and they're the first person to share their ideas. Now, if you have a relationship with that person, or if that person, if you have a strong connection to that person for some reason or another, then you're more likely going to agree with that person, or you purposefully won't disagree or bring any ideas to the table that might be alter than your friend's idea. So if, number 5 says, I got a wonderful idea, what we should do is boom, 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 what we should believe in is blah, 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 and here we should go here, and we should think about this, and we've got to think about this, and then, no, number 2, who's the friend, will go, yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to back you up on your play, number 5. Now, when that happens, groupthink starts to set in. Because 2 or 3 people start to agree, then everybody else feels bad if they don't agree. So they just go ahead and agree with whatever the idea is. So that's why brainstorming sucks as a way of truly getting to the diversity and the creativity that a team or group has to offer. The best way to do that is through brain writing. You might want to look this up, but come on. The way brain writing works is this. You literally have everybody, you present the idea. In this case, we're talking about mission, right? And you may say, I want everybody to independently write down 5 different ideas of what they think the mission of our team should be. 5 independent ideas. And everybody writes them down and don't share them with anybody. But they write them down, let them know these ideas are going to be anonymous. There is nobody who's going to get credit for these ideas. There's nobody who's going to be able to lead these ideas. They're not going to be able to talk to these ideas. Because once you put that out in the public, now it's something for people to feed off of, or shoot down, or buy into, or create bias around based on relationship. You want to make sure the ideas are just ideas. And so you want to do brainwriting instead of brainwashing or brainstorming. You want to brainwrite, right? So if you come up with 5 ideas independently, now as a facilitator, what you can do is you can take those ideas with nobody's name and then put them up, in front of everybody, and make sure that obviously some ideas are going to appear more often than other ideas do. And those top 3 ideas don't have to have anybody assigned to them, but you could then discuss the ones that are more similar and the ones that more, and then you can begin to gel around democratically approved top 3, top 2 ideas about what the mission should be. This is a great technique. I do it all the time when we have a group that doesn't seem to have an idea of where it really is and where it belongs. Because mission should answer this question. Mission should answer the question, why are we here? Not what we're doing, but why do we exist? Why are we gathered? What is it that we hope to not just accomplish, but have an effect on? This is a good question that mission always answers. And if you ask this question, ask everybody to write down, why are we here? What do we hope to accomplish? What do we hope to have a great effect on? Because we know what we want to accomplish. We want to win the football game, or we want to get the Super Bowl, or we want to get that specific thing. But why is it us? What is it unique about us, and unique about me, or unique about what we bring to the table? That's the why we're looking for. We're looking for the deeper why, the why that's going to be there for you when you seem to be down on the ropes, you seem to be down and out, because you want to refer back to that, right? And a lot of times, your mission will inform the greatest values of your organization and your team, or and vice versa. Your values will also inform your mission, because we believe in these things and these ideas. Then we're going to embark upon this mission in this way. But if you don't work those ideas out and really get them all out on the table, then I got a feeling you have a lot of opportunity that's kind of left to be designed with a collective team. And I think a lot of creativity gets lost when we leave everything to one person to do, or we don't really collaborate well in the determination of what our true mission is, why we're doing the purpose of this thing. Why are we doing it in the first place? Right? You got to answer that question. If you don't answer that question, you're going to be lost. And it's going to be hard for you to lead your team forward, specifically when the hard times come. And the hard times come. They always will, they always have, and they always will. So it's critically important as you begin to work through your planning processes, that you establish that idea of mission, but that you do it in a collaborative, collective way so that everybody feels committed to it, right? Okay, so we've gone through what you need to do to develop some tremendous belief in each other, what you need to do to have committed action with each other, what you need to do to have a shared mission. And the last thing you need to do is you need to agree on the process. What do I mean by that? Process is a methodology, it's a strategy, it's a technique that you use to move forward. Whatever that process is, it's something that you can measure, it's something that you can recreate, it's something that you can duplicate, it's something that once it's locked in and everybody understands what the process is easy to understand, it's easy to explain, it answers all of the what's and why's and where's and who's along the way. Once you've agreed on the process, you've agreed on everybody's role, you've agreed on how everybody's to participate, you've agreed on all expectations, you've agreed on what to do when someone hasn't met the expectations. You've got a fully thought out process of how you're going to exist as a team, how you're going to function as a team. You've agreed on when you're going to meet. You've agreed on when you're going to work. You've agreed on when you're going to report in. You've agreed on what you're going to do and how you're going to submit those reports, whether they're going to be written or oral, whether they're going to be captured, whether they're going to be analyzed. You've agreed on the times to do reflection and make recommendations for shifts in the process. And you know every step in the process. And once you have all that codified and written down, now you have something that you can work from. Now you have a strategy. Now you have something that you can guarantee. Who's doing what, when, where, why, how. Those are the questions that you have to answer, and that's what you have to codify. When you do that well, you will have a well-written, well understood, well agreed upon, well acted on, and accepted plan that your team can move forward. Now, even say you have a plan to reach a goal or plan to win a process or a plan to achieve something. Even if you don't achieve or don't win or don't get to the goal, the process itself is an achievement. Collectively developing a process with people like this in the way that I'm suggesting that you do this is such a rare thing. And it's usually at some point along the way when people start to fail, when teams start to fail, it's somewhere in the 4 phases of the 4 planning processes that I just shared with you. I'm going to share with you them all to sum them up once again. If you have, number 1, a good team where you have tremendous belief in each other, this belief allows you to give each other the benefit of the doubt. This belief allows you all to let each other fail, but also rescue each other when you need to believe and support each other. Number 2, when you absolutely prepare action, and every member of the team is also in action, then you can hold each other. It needs to be done along the way as you begin to get going and get started. To know this is very, very important, because once you know that your people are committed and they know that they're committed to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish as a team, as a group, then there's a feeling of safety, because you don't have to worry that, oh, somebody's not putting in the work, or somebody's not really here, or someone's not really committed. I'm sorry, I might be breaking up, but that's probably because of the weather here in the mountains. Sometimes the internet connection isn't as good as it needs to be. So I apologize for that. But hopefully it'll straighten itself out. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, I'm doing the best that I can with what I have at my fingertips right now. So yeah, you need committed action. Number 3, obviously, once you've developed a shared mission, once everybody understands the purpose, is committed to the purpose, then you have people who can engage and be excited and help each other and work together in a collaborative way that maybe you've never seen this before. But think about it. What would it feel like to have a group of people around you that are so committed to the mission, and you know and you believe that they're mutually committed to the mission just as much as you are, if not more? That's a great feeling. It's a great team. It's a great to be associated with that person. Now you've taken the last step, number 4. You've locked in a process. Once you've gotten a step forward on a team, this team is going to be a great team. Maybe not in this first effort, but it's an eventuality that you will prevail. You will win. You will feel great about working together, being together, and making it happen together. This is how you put together a winning team and a winning plan for a winning team. Okay, that's all I have to say. So I want to ask some questions for you guys. What is it that you feel, if any, has been the greatest part of a planning moment that you've had with another group, another team in your past? Or maybe you're looking forward to utilizing some of the tips and some of the techniques that I just shared with you. I'd love it if you would take a minute to share those with me right in the chat room. And if there's some things that we can reflect on and learn from each other, let's do that. So this is what this is all about. If you've got an idea that you'd like to share, go ahead and write that in the chat as compared to some of the things that we just talked about. And we'll see what we can do. I got a text from Melinda that I'm breaking up. Am I still breaking up? If I am, I apologize, but I can't do anything about it. I'm going to try to hold the camera as slow as I possibly can and speak as slowly as I can, but I can't do anything else about that. Let me see who's in here in the room with us right now still. I see you have Melinda still here, Jean is still here, and it's just us 3. Okay, so if you guys don't have any questions about planning or anything else, I'll sign off. But if you have questions about anything, go ahead and write them in the chat. I'll give you a couple seconds. If you don't have any questions, I'll go ahead and sign off. 10, 9, 8, 7. Hey, making up the time to commit is important, Gene. I agree with you 100%. So many people underestimate the time it's going to take to undergo a new effort. And as a leader, it's important for you to do the best you can to indicate to everybody and help everybody understand this is the time that we're going to dedicate to this. Win or lose, this is the time that we all agreed we're going to. The character of that time, this is the way that time is going to show up. When you do this well, it's very, very manageable. When you don't do this well, then certain people commit more time than others. Next thing you know, people aren't doing what they said they were going to do. And, because naturally what happens is the top 20% of people end up doing 80% of the work. That's the Pareto principle. So you want to be very careful about that and make sure that people don't over-exude themselves and overshadow other members of the team in doing so, and other people don't just lay back in the cut and create opportunities or for other people to feel like, they're not pulling their end, not pulling their weight. Melinda says, when others are on the same page as me, vs. putting everything I say down. Okay, I love that. Okay, great. That's beautiful, Melinda. And I love the concept of writing it down. That is so critical. When it's not written down, it just can't get done. You can't go back to it. You can't reflect on it. And your reflections, and most people, unfortunately, don't take the time along the way to write down the lessons learned in whatever process they put together. And you need to have that time set aside too. You need to have time set aside to do reflection, time set aside to do lessons learned, individually and collectively. And then you need to share your collective ideas, so that everybody knows that everybody's on the same page and they're not moving too far ahead of each other and not falling too far behind each other. Gene, I've even asked people before about the time commitment for certain things and in their I'm assuming their opinions and thoughts about that. That is very, very important. Oftentimes, though, they can't answer that question. And so, even if they can't answer that question, you have to say, I am willing to dedicate this time and effort towards this and nothing more. Because when you don't do that, again, you set up an expectation that you're in it no matter what the time is or no matter what the expectations are. And that just can't be true. That's not useful or doable. Diana says, I love the brain writing idea. This really overcomes the introvert's reluctance to express during a meeting and yet have their ideas acknowledged. You're very true. You're very right about that, and that's kind of why I gravitate towards it, Diane, because as an introvert myself, I tend to not want to share all my ideas. I tend to want to sit back and wait for others and then see what they're saying and seeing what they like and seeing what they want, because I'm very interested in them, but I'm much less interested in my own ideas, even though my ideas might be great. I'm more interested in other people's ideas, and sometimes my ideas get sort of, I even throw them under the bus myself before I even get a chance to express them. That's why brain writing works much better than brainstorming, because it forces everybody to give their ideas. When I'm really good at when I do a brain writing strategy session with an organization or a group of people, I will give them unlimited access. I'll tell write down as much as you possibly can about how we can do this. Not just 5 ideas. Just go. If you got 10 or 20, it doesn't really matter. Just keep going. Point by point. And sometimes I'll give them a time limit, and then at the end of that time limit, then we have what we have. I collect them all ideas and I sort through them all, and I go, okay, now let's put the top ideas up on the board, and how many people had these various different ideas, and what's related to what. And if I need an explanation, I have, as a facilitator, the way to go back and go, okay, now what did you mean when you said this? Is this similar to idea number 2 up here, or is it something totally different? And that way we can have that real conversation without anybody feeling like they're getting left behind or they're not being included and all that kind of good stuff. So it really works really well. If you know how to, if you want to look that up, for any of you all have to facilitate these kinds of sessions, go ahead and look up brain writing and you'll find lots of information about it. Gene says they misrepresented how long things would take and how much time. Yeah, that happens a lot. It's not just because I think people intentionally misrepresent something. I think they just don't know. A lot of times people have a big idea and they haven't really fleshed it out. They haven't really thought it through, and they don't know exactly what it takes. And what then they only end up finding out that it takes a lot more than they thought it would. That's a bias that we all have. And I'll say, I'm awful forgiving of people when it comes to this bias, particularly because I am an idea person myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I got 1,000 great ideas, right? But what it's going to take for me to implement those ideas is always more than I imagined that it would take to implement those ideas, which is why it's important that you have a very, very strong network of people that you can bounce ideas off of. And some people who have already done those things, or already been crawled those, through those muddy waters, or figured those things out, can tell you, no, 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 no. This is a Herculean effort. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources to pull this off. And before you do this, you need to make sure that you understand what that's going to take. And that just requires sometimes, making the right, asking the right questions instead of how much time is it going to take, or how much effort is it going to take. You may ask, and those are great questions to ask, but it might be a better, on a regular, consistent basis. And then, that person may start to think through, oh, it's going to take more of an effort than I thought it was going to take. And I'm not sure I want to ask people time, effort, and make it easier for people. So that's that. Do we have any more questions, thoughts, smart remarks, or comments? If so, this is one of the best sessions I think we've had. So I really would appreciate it, by the way, if you guys are watching this on Facebook. Listen, part of the Facebook page and make a recommendation, because I didn't even realize that was possible. It could be done. But if you have a recommendation I love to see that. If you have a negative recommendation, please don't put it on my Facebook page. Talk to me. Talk to me about it. Send me instant messages and let's talk about that. But I would really appreciate it if you had a positive feeling from any of these videos that we've ever produced or put together. Do me a favor and write it on my recommendations page on the Facebook page, because that helps me get more viewers. It helps me to provide more credibility to what we're doing. And again, let's get ready because next week we're going to be talking about how to put it all in execution. And if you have an idea of what great execution looks like, let's engage and let's talk about that. I may have you be one of my keynote speakers. If you want to write down, or if you want to look at the 9 steps, you're part of the roundtable, you have access to that. If you're not part of the roundtable and you want to check that out, let me know. And don't worry. And that's that. Okay, I got a last thing. Jean says it makes sense, and then she said you cut out to question to ask when, how much time. Okay, yeah. So I think what I was saying directly, how much time or how much effort you think this is going to take. I think sometimes we can back into that and saying, listen, what do you imagine that we would be doing together regularly and consistently? Do you see us meeting half an hour every week? Do you see us me working on this for an hour every day? Give me a sense for the work effort that you expect from the people that you're inviting into this opportunity, right? And if it doesn't meet your criteria for what you're willing to share or give, quite frankly, I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking I wasn't really gonna put 5 hours a week into this. I was thinking more like 15 minutes. If I can do 15 minutes with some things I've already put together or something like that, then we're good to go. But if I got to do more than that, I'm not thinking that I'm willing to do this that way. It's also important for you, when you're inviting somebody to do something, give them a reasonable expectation of what the real effort is going to be, to the best of your ability. Now, quite frankly, you don't always know, right? You're making a guess. So when you're making a guess, just say, I'm guessing you could get this done in less than a half an hour. It may take you an hour, but giving them something, a reasonable idea, is better than giving them nothing and go, well, I don't know. Nobody wants to follow somebody who doesn't know. That's bad leadership, right? So you want to make sure you have an idea of what you think it might take or their effort might be. And sharing that with them is critically important up front, so they can begin to make the adjustments on their own about what they're willing to commit to in terms of time, effort, and resources. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so we've got Gene still on the call, and I think it's just us two, Gene. So we're going to close this down. I had a great time. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you did as well. Everybody did. And I'm going to try to make sure I pop this up on the recording so I don't have to redo it. So in any case, I'm going to say goodbye. Had a great time. Thanks for those of you who popped in. Bye now.